Hi everyone. Okay, so today we're going to discuss one of the key aspects of ESMValTool, which is the recipe format. So the idea is really to take you through how a recipe is structured, and so that you can understand how the tool works. So what do I mean by recipe? So the recipe in the context of ESMValTool, it's a YAML file that contains a set of instructions that you need to reproduce some result. It tells the tool the kind of datasets you want to use, the kind of preprocessing you may want to apply, the kind of diagnostics you want to run, and some information about the sort of outputs you may want to get from the tool. So, as usual, I'm starting with the ESMValTool webpage, and I just want to point out that there's extensive documentation online. So a lot of what I'm discussing today is already available in different forms across this website. So you can have a look at the documentation, for example, or the tutorial, and you will find like everything I've discussed. I discuss in the videos, also available maybe in a slightly different form, which means it's probably a good idea so that you can consolidate like different things. Okay, so going to, for example, the section around example recipes. So there are like if we go to available recipes, there's a series of recipes available. You can click on any of them and get some description. So today, what we are going to try is we're going to go through one of the example recipes, a recipe called recipe Python, which is a simple recipe that uses a diagnostics written in Python. And that recipe, I've put the output here, produce this set of evaluation. So if you look at the output, you have like some information about the authors, maintainers, projects they refer to, some references, which in case there's none, and the recipe produce first of all a set of map using like a diagnostic called script1. So we'll just have a look at the recipe and I'll explain what's going on. So a series of two maps of global air temperature for two datasets being BCC CSM11 and BCC ESM1, and a series of time series for that shows the annual mean temperature in Amsterdam and the global mean since 1850. So you've got like here like 5 plots, one showing the annual temperature in Amsterdam for one of the datasets, so the BCC CSM11, and the same for BCC ESM1, a plot showing the multimodal mean for these two, and here we've got 2 plots showing the annual global mean for the 2 datasets I mentioned. So ESMValTool has quite an extensive outputs a lot of information on provenance. So you basically have like all the dataset used listed. You can click on them. You can download them if it's made available by the person who run the analysis. You can look at references just by clicking here on references, for example. Again, you can and you can have have a look at all sorts of things, just browse the output. I'll go in more details in the video just to explain everything you can do and how you can browse those outputs. Okay, so let's get started. So the idea, we're just going to try to understand the structure of the recipe that produced those outputs. And to do that, I'm just going to open the recipe in a text editor. So I'm using Visual Studio. The reason I'm using Visual Studio is like it's got some interesting functionality to collapse YAML files. So I think it's going to make things a bit clearer to explain. All right, so let's go ahead. So I'm on my local machine. So I'm just and I've got the ESMValTool available. I'm just going to get the recipe Python. So I'm just doing a recipe list because I forgot we have a Python recipe here. Here we go. I can use that, and I'm going to run ESMValTool recipes get example recipe python.yml. And that should download the recipe python.yml file that I can open. And here we go. This is what an ESMValTool recipe looks like. So just a quick browse. It's a classic YAML file. So can be a bit daunting at first, but we're just going to go like slowly and just to describe the structure of that file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to collapse all these elements, and I'm going to discuss the structure of the file. All right, so let me do this. Here we go. All right, so I've just collapsed the structure of a YAML file. So you see, this is basically the root structure of any recipe that you find in ESMValTool. ESMValTool requires like 4 high-level sections: documentation one, datasets one, preprocessors, and diagnostics one. Okay, so what do they do? So the documentation is just like to record information about like things like a title, a description, authorship, maintainers, and ESMValTool is quite strict on having this information. So if you don't have that information, in the recipe will likely fail. I mean, we could discuss why they're doing this, but I think it ensures that metadata is recorded, and so we can record things like references, authorship, and people maintaining the recipe. I think it's quite important. The datasets basically telling ESMValTool which datasets you're going to use to run the recipe. It's a way of telling ESMValTool, please find me those datasets on the system. I'm going to need them. So we're going to go through this again. Preprocessors, basically the data rarely comes in a format that's ready to be used by the diagnostics. And the idea is also to have like a kind of separation of concerns. Like you first process the data, then feed it into a diagnostics that has some predefined input format. and that will always work, like as long as you provide the format in a specific input. So and so the diagnostics, as I just said, is just like the scientific analysis you may want to do, or the plotting function you want to use to look at the data. So things if we go from top to bottom, first you fill some information about what this is about, who's the author, and if there are some references. You tell ESMValTool to find some datasets. You give some instructions on how to process the datasets, and then once the data is processed, you pass that to diagnostics, which generates the actual diagnostics. All right, so let's go through each section in more details. Looking at documentation, so I've got a few things here. I've got a title. So the recipe is recipe's title is recipe that runs an example diagnostic written in Python. This is what we've had like on the output here, if you remember. And so information, some further description about what the recipe is actually about. So again, simple example recipe that plots a map and time series of temperature. There's a list of authors. So the authors are always listed in that way. So it's last name underscore first name. Same thing for maintainer. So this is the maintainer for that specific recipe in the ESMValTool GitHub repository. References. So here it's a dummy entry for some project, and you can also attach that recipe to a list of projects. So like there's like a list of key projects that are defined in the ESMValTool, and you can use that. Authors I think are mandatory. For the other ones you can forget about them if you need to, but it's a good idea to have them somewhere anyway. Just to quickly mention that authors, maintainer, references, projects, refer to things that need to be that are actually stored in a simple database that comes with the ESMValTool. So if you are not one of the registered author, for example, or maintainers, the recipe will fail. So you need, if you want to use your name, you need to register as an author. But way around this is probably just to use a name that exists there. And if you really want to submit, if you want to contribute back to the ESMValTool collection of recipes, you can ask to be added as a contributor. We will probably discuss this a bit further in one video where we just explain how you can contribute back to ESMValTool. All right, so that's for the documentation section. Just gonna collapse it. I'm just gonna fold it, sorry. And now looking at data sets. Okay, so as I mentioned before, looking at the recipe here, we've got plots for two datasets, BCC CSM11 and BCC ESM1. These are two datasets, essentially two model outputs. And so the way they are listed in the recipe is through like those YAML description. So each dataset is described by a series of keywords, or they use the term facets in the documentation. So you need to specify the name of the dataset, so BCC ESM1 in that case. And a project. So we're looking at the dataset BCC ESM1 in project CMIP6. Okay, so it basically tells ESMValTool to look for dataset BCC ESM1 in the CMIP6 project, and to specifically look for the experiment historical, the ensemble R1, etc. And that uses the grid, GN grid. Okay, so there's a series of keywords that can be used to identify a dataset. Not all of them are mandatory, but of course you want to be as accurate as possible to refer to the dataset you are interested in. Okay, so as I mentioned here, we've got two datasets, and ESMValTool is going to find them for us. Then we go to the preprocessors. Okay, so we need to define some preprocessors. That kind of implies that you know what's in the data. So here in that case, we want to do a recipe that plots the surface air temperature. Sorry. So we want to apply a series of preprocessors, like to convert the data. So for example, one of them is, so there's three of them here in that preprocessors section. One of them is conversion to degrees Celsius. Another one is to calculate the annual mean temperature for Amsterdam, and the other one is to calculate the annual mean, globally. All right. So these are just names. All right, for the preprocessors you want to apply. Each preprocessor is defined by a name, and then you tell it you define what it's supposed to do. So the 2 degrees C preprocessor calls an ESMValTool preprocessor, that's called convert units. So there's a lot of preprocessors available. I'm just going to quickly go to the ESMValTool documentation again, and just to show you where to find them. I think it's a good idea to always have the documentation open, so you can find about the different functionalities. And let's just do a quick search for preprocessors. Oops, sorry. I'm just going to look at preprocessors. And click to preprocessor function. That's not what I need. Sorry. Here we go. So, looking at preprocessor function, so there's a list of preprocessors available with a short description of what they do. So if I look at the convert units one. So let's see if I can find it. Here we go. So it's here, you can click on it, convert the units of cube to new ones. And some information about the thing it does, and each preprocessor in ESMValTool takes a cube as the first argument. So a cube is for people who know a bit about Iris. It's basically a structure to encapsulate some data. So it's similar to XArrays, for example, which they call it a cube. So it's a multidimensional array with some metadata attached. And in the case of so each preprocessor takes a cube as the first argument, and then a series of arguments that are specific to the preprocessor. In the case of convert units, you're passing units argument, and it tells you, like in this API documentation, that the units argument is to describe the new units that you want to convert to. Okay, so going back to our recipe, if I move a bit further down, I see that I've got another preprocessor called Annual Mean Amsterdam, and that processor is actually a series of 4 preprocessors. First, we've got one that's called extract location. So it's basically extracting the location of Amsterdam using an interpolation scheme that is linear. There's another preprocessor called mean, so to calculate, as it suggests, a mean value. Some multimodal statistics, so I'm not going to go in details of what this does, and but again calculating some mean values. And here again we find our convert units preprocessor again. Right, so that's the second preprocessor, and the last one is called Annual Mean Global. We've got a series of statistics that are applied to in that case. One's called ACCESS statistics, calculate statistics on an area. So here we're calculating the mean value for a specific area. Calculating mean statistics like temporal statistics for annual value, and again converting our data into degrees Celsius. Right? So we are basically here defining a series of preprocessors. So that doesn't mean that all these preprocessors are going to be applied to everything. We're just defining them, okay? And once they are defined, they can be used further down in your diagnostics. Okay, so diagnostics. So diagnostics are a bit of a broad term, and they can mean different things. Okay, depending on who you talk to. So it can be a plot, it can be some metrics, it can be a map, can be a time series, etc. So in that case, we've got 2 diagnostics. One is called map and one called time series. And again, if we go back to our recipe Python, we see that we've got like our two diagnostics called map and time series. And so looking at how they are set up, so let's start with map. So the map diagnostics has some description. It's a global map of temperature in January 2000. Diagnostics, like you can pass like keywords like themes. So there's a series of themes that are predefined in the ESMValTool. You can use the default here, like I just refer to the documentation to understand what they mean. Realms. So in our case here, it's atmosphere realms. It's a way just to define like which realms we want to apply that diagnostics to. These are basically extra information to know which part of the dataset we want to use. Okay. And a list of variables on which we want to apply our diagnostics. So in that case, there's only one, which is TAS. And again, some information on the MIP we refer to, which here is the Amon MIP. We are telling it which preprocessor we want to apply to that dataset. And so we want to apply the 2°C preprocessor that we have defined above. So the 2°C is a simple conversion to degrees Celsius. And we want to apply this to a time range like for year 2000 with a periodicity of 1 month. Okay. And we can pass a caption parameter. I think the best is again to look at the documentation to have a deeper understanding of all these parameters. But here it will be just a caption that will be available, that will be sent to the actual script that does the analysis. Which brings me to the script. So all of this is basically to tell a bit more about what we want to do. Basically information that will be passed to a script that does the actual diagnostic. And the script we're talking about here is called diagnostics.py. So that simple Python recipe is using a Python script that performs some diagnostics. That script is going to receive all of these inputs. And you can also pass some extra information about what the kind of diagnostics you want to use within that script. So we will discuss, like in another video, how you design diagnostic, how you can write your own diagnostic, and how all this information are passed and are available from the diagnostic itself. But all the important thing here is like it tells the script like the kind of thing. So first of all, what kind of preprocessor to apply to the dataset. Tell it like to apply to and the task variable in that case. So you could have multiple variables that are available from the dataset we've described before. Here in that case we only have one, but you could have like several, which means it gives you flexibility on the kind of preprocessor you want to apply on those datasets. some extra information about where to find the data itself in the data set, and some time range. As I said, you pass on some extra parameters to the script itself, and it's usually those parameters are plotting options, like for example the type of plot you want to get, which in that case it's a p-color mesh, or the color map you want to use. Here we're using reds, etc. So that's for one diagnostic, and this is going to be run for each dataset that you've defined in the dataset section that contains a task variable. Okay. ESMValTool will go through each dataset, look for the task variable for the M on MIP, apply some pre-processing steps on the specific time range, and pass on some extra information to a script that will then produce a plot using like a p-color mesh type of plot using a red color map. And we got the same thing for the time series diagnostic. So again, as I said, here we've got two diagnostics, the time series one, second one, with description called annual mean temperature in Amsterdam and global mean since 1850. Theme, again, phase, real atmosphere, variable. So we've got two variables here that are defined. TAS Amsterdam, short name TAS, which is basically just extracting the temperature for Amsterdam. So we use the annual mean Amsterdam preprocessor. So just to quickly remind you that the annual mean Amsterdam preprocessor first extract the location of Amsterdam, do some statistic calculation, like calculating the mean, etc., and doing the conversion to degree C. And we apply this for a time range that goes from 1850 to 2000. TAS global is similar, except that we use the annual mean global preprocessor, and if you remember, like, the difference is we don't extract the Amsterdam location in that one. And all of that information so it's passed on to the preprocessor and then to a diagnostic script we call script 1 here, and it's using exactly the same diagnostic.py file that we've seen before, with slightly different option passed, like it's just the option of doing a plot. Okay. Again, the key thing here is like to always look at the documentation, just to understand how these things work, and to refer as much as possible to existing recipes online, so you can get an idea of on how to do things. So we got information on the preprocessor functions that I've shown you. So you will get like more details about the different preprocessors that are used in that specific recipe. Here we've got the extract point one, for example, to extract like latitude, longitude. That's the one we will use to get Amsterdam. But there's like a wide range of possibilities. Okay, and I can't go through all of it today. All right. And so diagnostics, the same. You can find information on diagnostics. It's mainly for developers, I believe. But it's a good idea to have a look at the documentation just to get a grasp of how these things work. And that would be it for today. Thank you very much.